Children, we were discussing about the first component of the current account, that is visible items, and then we came to know how it is getting balanced. How it is getting balanced when the export of goods is equal to import of goods, it is getting balanced. Likewise, we will move on to the next component of the current account. Next component of the current account is invisible items. What is invisible items? Services. So we will write the same procedure for invisible items. So next component is invisible items. Invisible items. Next component in the current account. We have three components in the current account: visible items, invisible items, and unilateral transfers. Now invisible items. Invisible items means services. Services. Now services. Two sides: export of services and import of services. Export of services and import of services. Now let's begin with import of services, because for goods we started with imports. So we'll start with imports. Now imports means what? Payment for the imports of services, because we have to pay for the imports. Payment, just as we wrote for the goods. Payments for imports. When we make payments for imports, what will happen? Payments for imports means outflow of foreign exchange. Outflow of foreign exchange. Outflow of foreign exchange. When we make payments, there will be outflow of foreign exchange. When there is outflow of foreign exchange, where do we record it? We record it on the debit side. Debit side, which is considered as the negative aspect or negative side. Why it is a negative aspect or negative side? Because we are losing the money. We are losing. Money is flowing out. Similarly, we have to write for the exports. I told you both exports and imports are important. So when we write about exports, how will you write? Receipts. Receipts for exports. That means we are selling our services to some other country, so that there will be inflow of foreign exchange. When we sell the services to other countries, they will pay for us. Therefore, there will be inflow of foreign exchange. Inflow of foreign exchange. Inflow of foreign exchange. When there is inflow of foreign exchange, where do we record it? On the credit side. On the credit side. On the credit side. So we can write it as a positive aspect. Or positive side. So receipts from exports. Receipts from exports. Receipts from exports. Receipts that we get from exports causes for inflow of foreign exchange. Then it can be recorded on the credit side, and therefore it is a positive aspect, or it comes on the positive side. Just as I told you before, just imagine if the payment for imports is greater than receipts, or I'll write it as in the other way, then it will be clear to you. If the receipts are greater than payment for services. Receipts for services means we are getting. Payment for services means we are giving. If receipts are greater than payments, we are happy because money is flowing in, foreign exchange is flowing in. Therefore, there will be surplus. Then, if receipts from the imports are lesser than payment for the imports, we will not be happy because our money is flowing out. Receipts for the services are lesser than imports of payment for the services. That means we are not exporting that much of services to the other countries. Therefore, the flow of money is less. So, receipts are less than payment for imports means we are not that much happy. There will be deficit. There will be deficit. Now, sometimes receipts from services will be equal to payment on services. If that happens, we can say there is balance on invisible items. Therefore, we can say it is balance of invisible items. Balance of invisible items. So, if the receipt from the services is equal to payment on services, we can say there is balance of invisible items. So, once again, if the receipt for the services is greater than payment of services, then we can say there is surplus in the case of invisible items. If the receipt is lesser than payment, that means we are not getting that much of inflow of foreign exchange. Our money is flowing out. Therefore, we can say there is a deficit. We are not that happy if the receipts are less. But if the receipts are more, we are happy, there is surplus. But if the receipt is less, we are not happy, there is deficit. Now, as per the balance of payment accounting, in accounting sense, what do? We will balance both the credit side as well as the debit side. Therefore, what will happen ultimately? The receipt from the services will be equalized with the payment on services. Now we will be learning how we will be equalizing. I will be showing you a chart towards the end, the major drawbacks. I told you towards the end, I will be showing all these things to you. Then it will be a little more clear to you. So, if the receipt from the services is equalized with the payment on services, we call it as balance of invisible items. We will do it in balance of payment accounting because in the accounting sense, both the debit side and the credit side has to be balanced because it is based on double entry book system, balance of payment accounting. So, thus we have equalized the second component in the current account. Second component in the current account is invisible items, services. We have equalized the receipt and payment. Thus, we have achieved the balance of invisible items. Next, we will move on to the next component of the current account. I told you there are three components in the current account. They are visible items, invisible items, and unilateral transfers. Next is unilateral transfers. Here I told you we won't be saying export and import of unilateral transfers. Instead of that, we will be saying it as receipts and payment of unilateral transfers. Now, if it is receipt of unilateral transfers, if it is receipt of unilateral transfers, that means what is unilateral transfers? They are one-sided transactions that we give or that we get. Okay, if it is a receipt, it means what? Other countries are giving financial assistance for us. Other countries are giving financial assistance for us. Therefore, it is a receipt for us. I told you, when Kerala was affected by the flood and all those natural calamities, we were getting financial assistance from different parts of the world. Therefore, it was a receipt for us. So, if it is a receipt, where should we record it? It should be recorded on the credit side, and it is positive. That means there is surplus of unilateral transfers. There exists so we are getting receipt, we are getting. Okay. Now, if it is payment, that means we are giving to the other country. There is no liability that we have to give. If we are in a better financial position to help other countries, we can give the financial help. If we are giving any financial assistance to the other countries, we can call it as payment, because we are giving the financial assistance. So, money is flowing from us to their country. It is a one-sided transaction. It is not a liability. If we are in a good financial position to give them, we can give. Otherwise, no need. It depends on the financial position of our country to help the other country. So, if we are giving any financial assistance to the other countries, it will be recorded as payment, because money is flowing out. Money is flowing out. Therefore, where do we record it? On the debit side. That means negative side. Money is flowing outside. Now, we will come back to the situation where there is surplus and deficit. Sometimes receipt on unilateral transfers, sometimes receipt on unilateral transfers will be greater than payment. Sometimes if we are getting more financial assistance, we will be happy. Receipt will be more than payment. That means there is surplus in the unilateral transfer. Suppose if the payment is greater, that means if receipt on unilateral transfer is lesser than payment, what will you experience? There will be deficit. Receipt on the unilateral transfer is lesser. That means whatever we are getting is less. Therefore, we experience a deficit in the unilateral transfers. Deficit. So, both surplus and deficit you have to be clear with. So, if it is the surplus, we will be happy. If it is deficit, we will not be happy, because the money is flowing outside, isn't it? So, if there is a balance between these two, that is the one which we have to learn next. Balance between these two. Balance between these two means what? Receipt on unilateral transfer, I am writing it as UT, is equal to payment on unilateral transfer. That means a balance is maintained here. That means a balance of receipt and payment of unilateral transfer is maintained here. So, thus we can write here as balance of unilateral transfers. Because both receipt on unilateral transfer that we are getting and payment on unilateral transfer, the financial assistance that we are giving to other countries, both are equalized. Therefore, we can write it as balance of unilateral transfer. So, in the balance of payment accounting, we will be balancing, equalizing both the credit side as well as the debit side as per the rule of double entry book system. Both credit side and the debit side has to be balanced. So, in that case, we will be balancing. So, if it is balancing, receipt on the unilateral transfer is equal to payment on the unilateral transfer. If it is equalized, we can say that it is balance of unilateral transfer. The balancing aspect will be coming for capital account as well as the current account when the whole thing is being recorded. For each and every item, it may not be. The equalization comes for the capital account and the current account, because in that we will be writing in the statement, we will be including both current account as well as capital account. Now we have come across only the current account, capital account is left out. So both current account and the capital account and the debit and credit of current account as well as debit and credit of capital account, all these things will be recorded in the same statement. and thus it will be equalized. That is what we will be learning in the next few topics. That is where I told you how will I show you in accounting sense and in operating sense how the balance of payment works. In accounting sense, balance of payment, how it works on the basis of double entry book system where debit side and credit side are equalized. Okay, now when the receipt on the unilateral transfer is equal to the payment on the unilateral transfer, we can say there is a balance on unilateral transfers. Therefore, the third item in the current account is also balanced. The third item in the current account is unilateral transfer, and that is also balanced. Now we will move on to the balance on current account. When all the three components of current account is balanced, all the three components of current account is balanced, which is the first component? Visible items, balance of trade. Next is invisible items, balance of invisible trade. Next is unilateral transfers, balance of unilateral transfer. We have balanced all these things. Theoretically, we have balanced all these things. Then we will see how it works. Numerically, I will be showing it to you. Now, if we have balanced all the components of the current account, we can surely write the next concept as balance of current account. Because when we equalize all the components of current account, the current account itself will be balanced. Let us see how is it. So for it, we have to write few things on the board. Balance of current account, which will be explained in the next class.